This week on Once a Ranger, the gang takes a look at the pilot episode and compares it to the very first episode ever released.
I'm not a ranger yet, but I will be in the future.
Once a ranger,
Always a ranger.
Hello, everyone. I'm Minhas. I'm joined with Nav and Akil, and this week we're going to be taking a look at the unaired pilot. It is wild, 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 wild. I'm glad we finally got to look at it. I was thinking about where we would input this, but we just finished season 1. It seemed like the perfect opportunity. So let's dive right into it. Akil, who has never seen Power Rangers, getting to see the pilot. Nav, I don't know if you've seen it before.
I actually hadn't seen this unaired version before.
Okay. So exciting. Both of you have seen it for the first time. I've seen it before. I've watched it a couple of times because it's so wild to me. It's just like that morphing sequence when they're like, you are a Tyrannosaurus, the Animorphs, as Akil called it, sticks in my brain. Like, I think about it once in a while.
Yeah.
That I was not expecting that. I didn't like that. I never want to see that again. Oh, it was so gross. I know why Kimberly was so grossed out by the idea of her transforming into a giant lizard, because she did, and it was disgusting.
And like the way they kind of like moved.
Yeah, they had to like pose to match the dinosaur.
Yeah. And Kimberly did this thing where she flapped her wings, so that she could turn into the pterodactyl. Mm-hmm. It was so funny, honestly.
Yeah. And Trini like reached out her arm to match the saber-toothed tiger, but she reached it out all the way, so like the CGI, they had to pull it back a little bit so that it matched up.
And also, why did they just use a different picture? Like, why did the saber-toothed tiger have to have his paw like that?
I have no idea.
That was weird.
Yeah. They probably just like went to the local science museum and it's like, these are the taxidermy like model dinosaurs. They are already posed. We can take one picture of each before security comes. And that's what we're going to do.
I definitely had the feel that like, this is very pilot-y. They didn't put 100% into it. Like Alpha looked weird. Zordon looked weird. Everybody looked weird. I mean, the Japanese footage, same thing. But everything else was kind of strange. And definitely, I think there was like a big gap between when this pilot was shot versus when the first episode was shot. 1994, release of Power Rangers, so might have been shot in 1993. This looked like it was shot in the late 80s. It's very has that vibe, right? Like the hair, the like everything that's going on. Or maybe 1990, like on the dime or something, because it was like, I'm like, this vibe is so different than what's going on in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the first episode. And the one thing I definitely noted, this did not know what the target audience was at all either, right?
Mm-hmm. This was a much more mature Power Rangers than what I'm used to from season 1. The biggest thing that stood out to me is the opening scene where they fight people. Have they fought people in the rest of Power Rangers?
No, they make it a rule that they cannot. Yeah. And I have a theory that it didn't test well in test audiences.
Yeah.
Because like there was already this big kerfuffle, if that's a term, about like Power Rangers being way too violent. And they were like, well, at least we don't attack other humans. They just attack monsters. Whereas in this, like Jason kicks Bulk in the face. Mm-hmm. I was like, Jason, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
all of the Rangers, even Billy, even though he only got one hit in, like they all did damage to these people. And it was just so off-putting.
Yeah. It was strange for sure. And I didn't notice it until then. I thought about, I kind of skimmed through the actual, Day of the Dumpster episode. And it's like they just do like flips and stuff, or they fall themselves and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh yeah, wow, they don't, and I think I saw it in your notes too. So I was like, whoa, they don't do that. They did it here. It was very strange.
Yeah. Even in Day of the Dumpster, there's one where Bulk and Skull sort of run at Trini and Kimberly. And they just kind of like casually flip them over their shoulders. And that's like the most violence I've seen.
And they land on pads.
And they land on pads.
Safety pads. Yeah. Not into a bowling ring.
Yeah,
I liked honestly, I know you guys found it off-putting. I liked it a lot. I would not want to watch it in Power Rangers, but I did enjoy watching it. I thought it was fun. I thought it was like nice how they put it all together and
Oh
stuff.
yeah, it was really well coordinated, really well choreographed, put together. Just my only beef is that it was in Power Rangers.
Yeah.
I
And
think
Skull
especially for
was so creepy.
Mhm.
Like, ugh, I was like, oh my God.
was
Like,
that the character's name?
well, we don't know. They didn't say his name, but
Right.
it was Bulk, clearly, and somebody else who's like tall and lanky, and like a bunch of other people.
But yeah, I feel like the main bully was like the main bully, and everybody else was kind of nameless henchmen.
Right, exactly. That's why
But
I don't even know if Bulk was Bulk. It could have just been,
yeah,
bully number 3.
Yeah, that's interesting.
but
His hair was wild.
Yeah.
yeah,
His hair
it
was so
was.
crazy.
But like in the later episodes in season 1, he's always wearing that hat, that weird shaped pilot hat.
Yeah.
So I almost forgot what his hair even looked like. And then I watched the pilot and I'm like, that's not what it is. And then in actual Day of the Dumpster, he has his normal hairstyle.
Ponytail, yeah.
Ponytail,
Yeah.
slicked back.
Greased back ponytail.
Yeah. Very like it's funny because like Tommy also kind of has that hairstyle later on, right? So I think it's just like a 90s thing. I did watch Day of the Dumpster like consecutively, I'm going to use the term. So I watched like the arcs together. So like the beginning, the middle, the end, just so I could like see them side by side. And that's why my notes, like if you're reading my notes, are like so big because I was like comparing them at the same time.
Yeah.
And it was actually really interesting to see the stark difference because this pilot is very not colorful at all.
Mhm.
The first episode is so colorful, it's so kid friendly, it's soft is the
Yeah.
term I'm going to use. Man, watching these two, I love Power Rangers. It's like so funny, but it's just like a completely different vibe. Even these characters, like you said, Nev, they're completely different.
Yeah.
And Zoltar, so he goes, it's not Zordon, it's Zoltar. His little definition of teenagers, I wrote it down because it was so crazy. He was like, sorry, I have to find it. I have so many notes. Okay, the most dangerous, ruthless, underhanded, overbearing, self-absorbed, and over-emotional people on the planet. And then Alpha goes like that, teenagers. And on the side by side, Zordon goes overbearing and over-emotional. That's it. Zoltar seems like to really hate teenagers. Like he's so like sassy and aggressive, like the way he talks and stuff. Zordon's kind of more like straight-faced. Then these astronauts have this whole sequence, whereas in Day of the Dumpster, it's like 2 seconds. They really wanted to know us to know that Rita's palace stunk.
Yeah. I loved how they opened that scene with the astronauts where like the bowling TV is playing its weird bowling animations. And then it's like live from the moon. Even in 1992, that was ridiculous to say.
Yeah.
And then they're having a full-on conversation like, oh, it's a mysterious space dumpster. Better open it.
Yeah.
And
can everyone see this happening in the audience? Can they hear this conversation?
I think so. That's being broadcast live from the moon.
But it didn't seem like it because they were like, it's an earthquake. And then Billy was like, no, this is not an earthquake. So it seemed like they didn't realize what was going on. It was like a transition, which on an editing note, this pilot episode was very poorly edited. And like also just even story wise. So like I watched through Day of the Dumpster and they went back and forth, right? Like they started with the kids, then they showed Rita, getting freed from the dumpster. They go back to the kids. Rita's at the palace, then they go back to the kids, and then all that. Like in this pilot, it's very linear. It's just kids, Rita, kids get taken to Zordon, monster. Like it's just one, kind of, which it's not bad, but I don't know. It doesn't work for me compared to Day of the Dumpster. I like the back and forth. Also, big note, this was only 16 minutes long versus 22 minutes, which is like the regular size of a pilot or of a episode. So that's 6 whole minutes of content that wasn't available to them. which makes
Yeah.
sense for why, like, I think also the flow is off. Like
Mhm.
the scene with Billy uh being trained and practicing karate with the Jason is so, like, it seems small, but I find it so pivotal and important to the story and like the characters being highlighted. And we didn't get much of that in terms of the in the pilot. It was here are little quick things at all of them at the bowling alley, which I don't know, I personally wasn't a fan of. And then it was like, yeah, sprinkle in their personality, but yeah, so it was more like plot versus character.
Yeah.
Oh,
I liked the front loading of the characters in the unaired pilot, where like in 30 seconds you know exactly who everybody is, what their main personality trait is. I thought that was really useful. Whereas in Day of the Dumpster, it's like everybody does martial arts except for Kimberly. She flips, but also she does martial arts. So there's
Fair.
the characters.
yeah, like you can. I also agree. Like their distinct personalities are very more like prevalent in the pilot, and everyone's nice in the first episode, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone's kind of and then this isn't a criticism against the first episode. It's just like to differentiate them from their personalities. It's like Kimberly is different,
Mhm.
and then Billy is smart, and
Yeah.
that's all we know, right?
Yes.
Bulk goes calls Zach a dance man or something. And like so we kind of know that Zach dances. This and the pilot, you do really get to see what each of them are like. Billy, I loved Billy in this pilot. I know I was watching it and I'm like, Akil is gonna have an aneurysm at Billy in this pilot. I loved him. I'm like, oh my god, he's so adorable and so dorky and so like, I don't know, passionate. But
Yeah.
give me your opinion. I need to know.
I mean, it's the same thing that we saw in Billy in the actual show. Like in this episode where he's trying out for martial arts, in a later episode where he's trying to learn how to dance. Like he's trying to fit in this pilot, even though he's still sort of on the outside, and Trini is there translating for him a lot more than we see in the actual show as well. So he's like his earnestness is there, but he just says too many dumb things, way too many dumb things for my taste. Not dumb things, just like the big words. He uses way too many big words in the pilot.
Ironically, the dumb things.
Yeah.
Because the smart things, you mean. What's
The
really
pseudo
funny,
smart
the
things.
pseudo smart things. What's really funny is like when they start the first time they teleport, he goes, we seem to be demolecularizing. And Jason's like, what? And he's like, never mind, I don't know. Like he admits it. He's like, I have no idea what's going on. I'm just making things up at this point, which I
Well,
kind of admired.
okay, yeah. I mean, they were demolecularizing. So that's like the one time when you can say, yeah, this is what we're doing.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I disagree that they were showcased better in the pilot, but that's just how I feel about it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
That's
that's fair. They're
think-
very different.
Yeah, because with the pilot, it's all like loaded up at the front. You know exactly who you're dealing with as soon as they're introduced. But in the actual show, it develops over the first like it takes us 3 or 4 episodes to get to know all of the characters.
Sure.
So I think that's good in its own way. But if you're trying to pitch to a studio, like they need to know who the characters are within the first 30 seconds.
Yeah, it really is like a kind of extended elevator pitch.
Mm.
Yeah, fair enough. I think the Day of the Dumpster does a good job of that still, but
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. But then Day of the Dumpster also does it with the not the Animorph sequence, but they list off like these are your character traits.
Right.
And in the pilot, it's so stupid. In the pilot, Zoltar is saying these are the character traits of these animals that you're gonna morph into. That doesn't make any sense. But in the actual episode, they're like, these are your character traits, so you're gonna transform into these animals.
Right.
In Zoltar's defense, he does at the end say again.
Yeah.
what the actual people's character traits are. And I wrote these in the notes because I was like, this is actually adorable. Only in hindsight, like we know who these people are at this point, and hearing Zoltar talk about them, I love that, right? So he brings up that Jason brings leadership and courage, which he does, right? I love Jason. He's the best leader, the best leader in Mighty Morphin. Okay, uncontested. Sorry, Tommy lovers. Jason's the best leader. And then Kim brings beauty and grace, which I understand grace. I'm like, yeah, she brings grace. Beauty, she's beautiful. I just don't understand why that's important to this team because they all wear masks and nobody can see them.
But also, real quick before you continue, right after that, she's like, I can't do this because the helmet messes up my hair. And I know it was a joke because it was a joke in the episode too. But my first thought was, well, I guess you're not bringing beauty to this team then.
Or Grace.
Or Grace.
I feel like if you can't be
it's so funny.
Sorry,
no, that's
no, but also, what is it? I mean, to only use beauty for a female character, anyways. Like, but like, what about Trini then? She's not beauty, as like I was just like, what's that about?
That was weird, right? Like Kimberly has so much more to her than her looks. Yes, she is a very, very beautiful woman, and I will never say she's not. And she is graceful, but she has so many traits that make her worthy of being a ranger. She is an amazing ranger, and it's not because she's beautiful. It's because she's a good person, and she cares for her friends. And like, why are you making a face, Akil? Just for those of you who are listening, Akil is making a face.
I'm making a face because yes, that's true for the TV show. I don't think that's true for the pilot. She was a lot meaner and more aggressive and more short-tempered in the pilot than she is in the rest of the show.
You know what? Fair enough. She is the mean girl highlighted in this. Yeah. But
see, that's why Day of the Dumpster, they do it better when she supports Billy when he's doubting himself.
Yes. Yeah.
You are correct. She is like a better friend in Day of the Dumpster.
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue. No, it's funny because Kimberly is like a weird one when it comes to like her strengths to the team because people are like, and I think it's because she's the Pink Ranger, like people often underestimate her, right? And they kind of like be like, oh yeah, she's pretty. Right. And she's like a gymnast, right? But she's a very strong fighter, right? Like she is super, super powerful. And there's been a couple episodes where like she's taken on monsters by herself. She's brave, and she cares for her friends. Yeah, she can be a little bit like mean sometimes, right? But like that's just her, right? Yeah. It's like, and again, like, and I brought this up in the last episode. She's very like, to me, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where it's like you're allowed to be very feminine while still being like a powerful warrior, right? And that's what Kimberly is. And I know throughout the season, I'm always like harping on Kimberly, but I do it out of love because she is mean and I love that, right? She's unapologetic for who she is. So like that irked me a bit that they called her Beauty and Grace. I just didn't think it did her service, but it's a pilot episode.
Yeah,
you gotta typecast them, right? Like, then what they said about Zach, which I loved what they said about Zach. Zach has a love for life. Oh my god, I was like, oh my god, that actually is really amazing, and like really does. I mean, when you're like, what does that bring to the team? It really is like his passion, right? Yeah. His passion to like take care of the planet and like his friends and his family and like everything around him.
Angela.
I love that description of Zach because when I think about Zach in the episodes, like in the TV show as well, he does have a love for life and he is very like vibrant and like a big personality for the team. Billy has a knowledge of the ages, which we knew that he would that's his like primarily he's smart. Okay, Akil, like he does a lot for the team. Like you might not like the way he words stuff, but he helps a lot. Like he helps Alpha and like in the control room and stuff. More like he's very smart.
Yeah, he
Um,
helps, he repairs, he builds new inventions, he puts dog collars on Bulk and Skull, like all the smart people stuff.
yeah,
But
he's
he just
also.
not a fan of the personality.
Hmm?
I love Billy. Like, I love him in this episode too. Like, when
Mhm.
after the fighting, and I'll go back to the last thing Trini said after this point. Like, he's like, and then we did this, and then we did this, and then we did this. And then it's like a little kid, like telling like
Mhm.
their parents about the day, and even like the camera angle is like looking down at them, so they like look like little children.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny, and then they did like so in this episode. Bulk and Skull aren't the butt of the joke. Like, we don't know if it's Skull. It's more of like now Billy is like the kind of slapstick humor.
Mhm.
And then in Day of the Dumpster, it's kind of more like specified that hey, the slapstick humor is going to be Bulk and Skull.
Yeah.
And where in this one is just like here's some guys. But so like what they say about Trini is she has a peaceful soul, which I really liked because I think that is like very like precise to who she is. But what I thought was funny is she has lightning hands. Which is like yeah, she does, but you didn't say anything about how other people are fighting.
Yeah.
Right? Like I mean like that's so funny. Like she's good because she fights. Jason and all of them. It's like when they called Kimberly beautiful, right? It's like, is Trini not beautiful? Is
Right.
like, is Jason
They're
not a
literally
fighter?
all
Right?
beautiful and graceful.
They
So
are, yeah, literally.
And all, well, I guess other than Billy, they're all fairly decent fighters. So
Yeah, they all
yeah.
have lightning fast hands.
yeah, it was interesting. One thing I did like though, because I seem to have a lot more critiques of this, at least in comparison to Day of the Dumpster. But one thing I really did like was when he tells them, he brings them to the command center and he tells them the situation, and they like one by one like highlight the absurdity of the
Yes.
situation. I thought that was really good. It was really like good comedic bit, but also like probably what a lot of the audience is thinking is just like this witch who flies a bike. And I was just like, yeah, it's pretty insane.
Yeah.
They didn't
Yeah.
mention the bike. They didn't mention the bike in Day of the Dumpster. And
No.
what's really funny is like that is so when I was watching the pilot and I saw Goldar flying, I'm like, Goldar's flying? Do we ever see him fly? But they do in Day of the Dumpster. It's
Yeah.
like half a second. I'm like, I don't remember this at all. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is like this witch riding a tricycle, but she's like in the pilot, she's like more destructive. Like
Right.
Mhm.
she was blowing things up, she was moving buildings. And yeah, so like she just seems like way
Yeah.
more of a threat
That
than does.
yeah. This is where she got the office building. Like a few episodes ago, we were talking about why is there an entire office building underneath her moon fortress? This
True.
is where she got the office building.
That's where the
Yeah.
She
data
just
banks
stole it
are or
from Angel
whatever.
Grove.
Yeah, she just like
Files.
moves it and she's like, this is mine now.
Yeah. But they also like give her a different motivation. And I
Mhm.
had like when watching Day of the Dumpster, I'm like, wait, what was the motivation? In Day of the Dumpster, and I guess in the rest of the show, it's she just wants to destroy Earth because it's the nearest planet, and that's how she celebrates getting out of the dumpster. But Zoltar was explaining that she wants to destroy the entire universe. She's just going one planet at a time,
Mm.
and Earth is scheduled for destruction, pretty much, which makes her a lot more sinister than what we've seen in the show, which is just how do I personally make these 5 teenagers miserable under the auspices of destroying the planet.
It started off and then she just kind of got smaller and smaller and smaller. She's like,
Yeah.
maybe I'll start with just Angel Grove because
Yeah.
maybe biting off a little bit more than I could chew here.
I'll destroy Earth. No, I'll destroy Angel Grove. No, I will destroy this one teenager's psyche. No, I will destroy this one child.
Yeah, literally. It just kind of got like so specific.
Yeah. Well, no, but like you were both saying, the not only was Rita more serious, but
Mhm.
I found it so interesting that the putties were unfazed by any of
Yes.
the attacks. Like they just stood there.
Mhm.
Because I watched the Day of the Dumpster again, and they did get hit when Jason or Zach kicked them, but they
Yeah.
just were too much for them to handle. But in this one, they literally were unfazed by
Mhm.
any of their strikes. And I was like,
Yeah.
interesting. I don't know if I've ever seen the henchmen in Power Rangers be useful or strong. So this was a
Yeah.
novel concept.
Maybe for half a second in season 2, episode 1, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
yeah.
If I
Very
remember
briefly.
correctly. Yeah,
All
very
right.
briefly.
Cool.
But
I'll look forward to that in 2 weeks.
But also, then what I did find weird was they clearly had like masks on.
Mhm.
Whoever's playing the putties versus like in the actual show, it looks like they have like a full body suit. Maybe it's still a mask, but it at least wasn't clearly like,
Yeah.
uh,
These masks were
noticeable.
not connected.
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
looks so weird to me. I was just like,
Yeah, I was like, this looks really stupid. I also
It's the
thought
Piranhatron situation with the Turbo movie.
Mhm.
oh my god. Oh my god. You're right.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Uh,
Trevor movie is like a fever dream, honestly.
Another thing with this is like, again, watching Day of the Dumpster, they show Finster making the putties. It's
Mhm.
small things, but like that makes it feel, I don't know, it just adds to the overall like world of this universe versus like the putties just showed up in this pilot, right? They're just
But
like
I don't think they're putties in the pilot.
they are.
I don't. But are they made out of putty?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, because
But
I don't know if you saw this because I know you watched the fights on double speed, but
I didn't.
they were making like metal clanging sounds, and they were like shiny silver. So I
Yeah, I
wonder
thought
if
it
the
was
putties were
rock sounds.
metal,
Oh, maybe
and
metal.
it sounded like metal. It sounded like hitting a dumpster with a stick from
Mm.
personal experience.
But they do that in the regular show as well.
They didn't do that in Day of the Dumpster.
Maybe not in Day of the Dumpster, but maybe in later, like in later episodes when they hit the
Yeah.
putties, it sounds like a metal clanging, you
Okay.
know. So
But maybe that's season 2 and there is reasons for
maybe
it in season
I thought it
2.
wasn't. Maybe I can see what
In
you mean,
season
but
1, sometimes
Maybe,
it
yeah.
sounds like rocks or like soft rocks, like clay. And then in the 30th anniversary, they literally turn into
yeah,
rocks. So
yeah.
that's the only frame of reference that I have. I think this is the first time I've seen metal putties, but maybe you guys have.
I think it's like they're indestructible too, like you said,
Mhm.
Nav. Like it was really weird seeing that. Jason like straight up, yeah, he's really powerful. He hits them and just like nothing, unfazed. And I was like taken back. I'm like, Jason, like what happened here?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know, but again, because they didn't show how the putties were created in
we
the
don't know.
pilot, we don't know.
Yeah.
So it was interesting for sure to me, at least.
Yeah, this scene was so funny. I laughed so hard because so they have this like something similar in Day of the Dumpster in here where they're kind of all like pushed into the middle together.
Right.
And Jason
Yes.
goes, "All right, let's morph." But in the pilot, it is slightly different. They're like, "What do we do? Let's scream for help." They all start screaming for help. I was like, "Who wrote this? This is the funniest thing I've ever seen." It's so unserious, guys. Like, and then Jason goes, "Oh, we can morph." I thought it was so funny. I definitely more streamlined in Day of the Dumpster.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
hilarious. What I noticed, I'm actually going to change the topic. If you did have something to say here, please go ahead.
I was just gonna say, since you brought up the morphers, again, it's just like a small editing thing, but like they're Zordon or Zoltar is talking to them, and then it cuts, and then they're like, well, "What about these Transformers?" I was like, "Wait, when did you get those?" Like, in Day of the Dumpster, they show them get them, and then they're like, "Look
Yeah.
at them" and everything. I was just like, "Oh, this is so." It's just the flow is so weird in this.
Yeah.
In this
It was
episode.
very choppy. And then when they morphed too, it was weird. They kind of put like their
Oh, the
hands
morphing
high.
sequence, not a fan.
Yeah,
Not
me
a
neither.
fan.
Didn't love it.
All
Did
good.
not love it. So what I was gonna say was
Mhm.
I'm gonna talk about Jason. I love Jason. So he in this is more gung-ho than he was actually in Day of the Dumpster. Like
Mhm.
he like physically gets pulled out of the command center.
Yeah.
And he's like, guys, wait, we should have stayed. Like he doesn't even have a moment of hesitation. He's like, guys, wait, we should have stayed. What's going on? Like, why we have to do something, we have to do something. I think even though that's my favorite Jason trait in the show, I think it's better that how they handled it in Day of the Dumpster.
Yeah.
I think it's like good to have him like have a moment of hesitation, kind of look back and just be like, is this the right thing to do? And then really just like be like, no, this is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I think it's like really pivotal, a pivotal moment in Jason's career, air quotes, as the leader.
Mhm.
Okay, I thought you were gonna say the other way around. And I was like, whoa, we're gonna have to discuss this because I feel the same way you do, but the way you were describing the other scene, I was like, oh, do you like this one better? That's
Oh.
interesting. But no, because I agree that the linger, it says a lot for a small. It's just the small things in Dave Dumpster. It just makes a difference. But the linger versus him being pulled, like you don't even get that moment to see what he's thinking because he gets pulled. Versus like he lingers, so clearly it's easy for the audience to see. Oh, he's processing it, and then you
Yeah.
know he goes along with them because they're friends, but shortly after he's like, I think we should do it, you know. I just think it's told a bit better in that way, and like really like you said, it's pivotal. It highlights Jason's character really well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But
But
also in Day of the Dumpster, like in the pilot, when they leave, they're like arguing and they're bickering, and it's kind of hard to tell who's on what side because they're all talking over each other.
True.
But they clean that up in Day of the Dumpster, and you can tell like it's Jason that pulls them back in for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Shall we talk about Fly Guy?
I have one more thing to say
Flygar?
about Jason, but
Oh,
you can
okay.
talk
yeah,
about
go
Fly Guy.
talk
Go for
about
it.
Jason. 100%,
Um,
please do talk about Jason.
Yes, I've been complaining about this about Jason since early episodes, and finally this pilot solved that problem. He doesn't have his ranger voice in the pilot,
Hmm.
whereas in season 1 his ranger voice gradually becomes his normal voice, and it just irks me.
That's fair. I think that's what endears me to him.
There's gonna be an episode, and you're gonna hate Jason's Ranger voice. And I think you know the episode I'm talking about. Um, it's when they first introduced Rocky, and there is a reason for it.
Oh, okay.
Why his voice is like that. He sounds like Barney the dinosaur. Like, Jason, why are you talking like that?
I think I know the reason now. I don't remember this voice specifically, but I think I know the reason. Um, but yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll get there when I get there. Let's talk about Fly Guy.
That just threw me off. I was like, who thought of this? This is such a bad name. It's just a bad
Yeah,
name.
he flies and he
Because
does.
he's a guy that flies.
That's so funny. And like honestly, it was okay when you're talking about Nub. When you're talking about the editing, this editing was so jarring because it's like send in Fly Guy, and they show this like Egyptian looking
The Sphinx.
monster, a Sphinx, and
He's a monster from a later episode in the show. That Jason fights. It's I think it's the episode where he's doing the bench press competition. He has to fight the Sphinx by himself. So they use that monster with Goldar. I agree though. It's very weird.
yeah, I was like, who's this? Why does Fly Guy look like this? He didn't look like that 2 seconds ago.
Yeah. Yeah, they just show two monsters all of a sudden. And I was like, wait, where did the other one come from? Like, what is going on here?
And Jason's like, oh, he brought a friend. The dialogue of when they're in the actual they're in the Zords for the first time, which they call them droids instead of Zords. It's okay. So in the Day of the Dumpster, it like there's just like a line where Billy goes, "Oh, it's like I can pilot it naturally," and I think just adding that in just like kind of really helped to streamline it as well.
Right.
And then they called it a mega droid instead of a megazord as well, which I thought it was so interesting hearing the different names.
Yeah. Do you know why they did that?
Why did they do that?
I know something. I know something about Power Rangers.
Okay.
Droid and android are trademarked terms by Lucasfilm.
Android?
Yes, Android. So like the Android operating system, Google pays a license to Lucasfilm to call it that.
What the heck?
Yes. It's been trademarked since 1977.
Jeez Louise.
So Power Rangers cannot call these droids or mega droids. They have to call them something else.
I like Zords. It's very like
Zords is good.
Yeah. It doesn't mean anything. It's just like what it's just a made up word.
Yeah.
It is a made up word, and it fits so well.
Yeah.
Like if you never knew what a Zord was and you were like to picture one in your head, this is probably what you'd come up with.
Wait, so did Cartoon Network also have to pay Lucasfilm then for like the androids in DBZ?
Yeah.
That's so wild.
I
Does
feel
it
like
say
My life
Android
as a
like every
teenage
other
android.
sentence with that saga?
Or no, that's robot. Never mind.
I
Yeah.
feel like androids are like
Yeah.
I don't know if it's actually androids. Okay, not that I don't believe you. I'm gonna Google it because android is like so commonly used in a lot of like
Yeah.
media.
Yeah.
Because even stuff before Star Wars, written.
Written stuff. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
from like it's from ancient Greek.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man, so they copyright something that already exists. Not cool, Lucasfilm.
Yeah, they trademark. It happened. They do this in wrestling all the time. Actually, the WWE will trademark terms and catchphrases and stuff.
Yeah.
And so, like, if a wrestler leaves the company, they can't use that. Like, they can't even use their like character name because the company will trademark that for their own purposes. So they have to like they use like their real name or another. They have to come up with a new name. So, yeah,
I
trademark
don't
is
know
huge.
enough about this topic. Asterisk. Before I say the next thing, I'm just gonna say that first because don't
Okay.
come for me. I
Yeah.
think that only works within industries. So
Yeah.
like trademarks. So if you're like outside of, so I think like Power Rangers and Star Wars fall under the same industry, and that's why they can't say Android. But I think outside of the industry, you could. And I'm thinking about that because like if you have a spa, you can call it an Android because it's a different industry. From my very limited understanding of copyright, I think that's how it works.
I'm not gonna act like I know a bunch, so
Yeah.
I can neither confirm nor deny your theory. But maybe Akil has more insight.
Actually, no, because now I'm questioning it.
That's fair.
Because I know droid is
Droid, I believe.
droid
I
is
100% believe Droid is copywritten from Star Wars, right?
Oh, you know what? I misremembered. Android is not trademark, but Google made an Android phone called the Droid, and that's what they had to license.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Yes.
Get out of the comments.
Yeah. If in the comments they mention this, be like, you watch the whole video.
Yeah.
We corrected it.
Watch 2 minutes later.
Just slightly more. Okay, cool.
Or no, just save me in the edit.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. Cut this all out.
So it's
It
just
is
droid,
not relevant.
but they still can't use droid.
Or
Nobody
I use this for engagement and post the clip of Akil making the claim that they can't use it.
Yeah, cut out the part where I correct myself. That's
Yeah.
That's so funny. No,
Yeah.
it was just the Android thing that threw me off. But
yeah.
But
Yes.
droid is a weird term for Zord. Yeah, Zords just feels right.
Zord does
and
feel better.
yeah, I like it better. I definitely like Zords better.
It also
Droid-
makes it feel alien, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's why.
Yeah, like Droid. This has the way it feels on your tongue.
Right.
It just
Mhm.
doesn't have the same effect as Zord.
Right.
For that particular type of monster, like Droid seems like small.
Yeah.
Droid
Right?
seems small, and I feel like Droid seems, maybe it's the Star Wars talking, it seems more alien than Zord. Zord seems really grounded to me.
This
Droid,
is the tricky part.
Yeah, it just feels like robots, right? That's why I don't think
Yeah.
it's more alien. So like,
But this is the
you
tricky
have
part
Roy-
because we have the lore of both entities in our brain. So I'm
Yeah.
like, well, yeah, of course Zord feels right for
Is,
Zords because that's what they are. But like, if it
are
was always called
mechazoids a thing? That word just popped into my head.
Zoids,
No, the
yeah, Zoid was
mecha-
a thing. Zoid was its own thing. I think Zoid, is that what it was? Now there's so many.
The
There was so
Zoids?
many
Yeah.
things. Like back then, it was like everybody trying to copy each other.
Yeah.
Oh, Mechazoid is from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which also gets a shout out in this pilot episode.
yes,
Which
they do.
is
Which
so
comes
funny.
back,
Yeah,
yes!
it's so funny that he said it. I'm a Ninja
Oh,
Turtle.
I was
Because
like, oh!
I put it in the notes. I was like, oh yeah, you're a Ninja Turtle, huh, Zach? That's very interesting.
That is very
Because
interesting.
it is canon. I think we told you this, Akil, that it is canon that the Ninja Turtles are real in the Power Rangers world.
I did not know. I know that there was like a crossover comic book. I didn't know that
Yeah.
it was canon.
Oh no, they're real
Well-
in the PR universe.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk
Okay.
about that because it is interesting, like the way the logistics work for that. But that is in the future. But it was, I
Aren't
also
they
noted that.
Aren't they on different sides of the country?
We'll get there when we get there.
Oh.
I have lots of thoughts on the Ninja Turtle episode. I'm sure
Okay.
Nev does too.
Oh, there's a Ninja Turtle episode.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a
Yeah.
crossover in the show as well.
Okay.
That's how we know that they're part of the universe.
Got it.
Yeah,
Good
in
to
the
know.
actual show. Yeah, it's not
It's
just
not
like
like
in the
a Ninja
comments.
Turtle Daredevil thing where you just know it's part of the same universe, even though they don't mention it.
No,
No.
they fight. They engage in battle with each other.
Yeah,
With each other or against each other?
you'll
Both.
find out.
Okay.
I guess we'll see.
I gotta know. I gotta know.
But this is a huge digression. So let's
Yes.
go back to the end of this episode.
Yeah.
And then we can have some final thoughts.
Mhm.
So this monster fight, weird, but at least it gives them like the opportunity to defeat something, whereas Fly Guy and Goldar just like dips, right? He
Yeah.
also like they don't even explain where he goes in the pilot. Like, they didn't even like in Day of the Dumpster. At least Goldar's like, bye, I'll deal with you
Right.
later. And this one, he's just gone.
Yeah.
And then and then Zordon like says like, don't do these things. Here's the rules. Where Zoltar's like, anyways, you're Rangers now.
Yeah. It's so funny you mentioned the whole thing with Fly Guy and Sphinx because like it made me think of wrestling because they do this a lot in wrestling where if they don't want someone to look weak, they pair them with other wrestlers who then are the ones that take the fall. So like so technically that wrestler got a loss, but they're not the ones who actually lost. So they still remain looking kind of like tough and like not as
Yeah.
weak. So I don't know, just when you mentioned that whole thing, it made me think of that. It was just random wrestling connection.
It could be like where they got that
Maybe.
idea.
That,
Like in,
yeah.
But okay, so last thing, let's talk about the ending. So Kimberly goes psych instead of not, and then Zoltar short circuits in the weirdest way. Like he like rolls his eyes and goes like, and then like I was like, I prefer alpha short circuiting as opposed to like this weird thing. Like I did not want to see that. It really, I was just like, whoa. Let's erase that from my memory.
Yeah. I actually don't remember. Like I watched it and I saw your note, so I watched it again. I don't know if I was just missing something.
Yeah.
I was just like, I don't remember this happening.
I just thought it was an eye roll, but if he short circuited, then he short circuited.
Well, it was not just an eye roll, like he shook a little. Like I think it's short circuiting because I watched Day of the Dumpster, right? I'm like, this is the equivalent.
Gotcha.
But it looked like it wasn't just an eye roll. Like it was like the way he like eye rolling is more sarcastic. Like it's more just like right. But in this one, it was like literally like shock.
Yeah.
Either way, it
To
looked
be
weird.
fair, I couldn't tell what Zoltar or Zordon were doing at any given time because their animation was just so creepy. Even Zordon in like this early episode, his mouth got displaced, which I don't remember happening in any other episode.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But
oh man.
I don't know if it was the quality of the episode itself or if it was the quality of the Zoltar effect, but I just couldn't see a face half the time. Like it's really blurry.
It was like a rolling stretch that would just go down his face and just it never looked like face.
Yes, exactly.
It's I do not like Zoltar. Like I like Zoltar less than Zordon, and that's saying something. Like
that's funny.
Zoltar, you are the worst. But in a hilarious way. Like, and they didn't have a viewing globe. They had this like weird projection thingy.
Yeah.
I definitely
didn't think about that actually.
Definitely, so right next to his face. Yeah, he's like,
Yeah.
look here. I definitely prefer the viewing globe. The command center looks amazing in Day of the Dumpster. This command center looked a bit wonky. Even Alpha's design, like I understand, right? It's a pilot. They're not putting money into this. Alpha design, like it was very reminding me of Star Trek. You know, like it's like this is like a cardboard guy with like lights in it and stuff.
Yeah.
So I found that kind of endearing, but I definitely prefer Alpha in Day of the Dumpster, the way he looks, and Zordon as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Alpha was just wearing like a arts and crafts smock with a circuit board printed on it. It was cute, but like
and a big fin for some reason.
Yeah, like his head was weird.
Yeah. Not as weird as the 2017 Alpha, but okay.
I mean, fair enough. I agree. That's the one thing about that movie that kind of like was weird. But Otherwise, 5 stars. Anyways, TLDR, Day of the Dumpster, I think, surpasses way more than this pilot. Pilot was weird, but definitely is a good pitch. It's a good pitch. I definitely can see like why the show got greenlit with some tweaks, right? I can imagine the studio being like, hey, let's dumb this down. Not dumb this down, let's make it nicer so that we have a target audience. Let's
Less
make it,
violent, more explaining.
yes, more colorful, you know,
For
more
sure.
nice.
Did we talk about Trini?
Once a ranger,
Always a ranger.